स्टूडेंट्स, आज हमारा सब्जेक्ट है प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स और क्लास है आईकॉम पार्ट 1। आज हम देखेंगे कि आईकॉम पार्ट 1 में एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से वो कौन से मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस हैं जिनके पेपर में आने के चांस ज़्यादा है। तो आइए इस लिस्ट को एक दफ़ा देखते हैं। तो पहला क्वेश्चन जिसमें आता है वो है डिफाइन बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड, डिफाइन डिमांड, डिफाइन डिस्पोजेबल पर्सनल इनकम, define elasticity of demand, define exchange rate, define exports, define 4 characteristics of land। और क्वेश्चन नंबर 8 है define gross national product। फिर आता है define imperfect competition, define inflation, define law of constant cost, define law of increasing cost, define law of supply, define marginal cost, define marginal revenue, define microeconomics। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है define national income, define normal profit, define paper money and write down its 4 merits, define phase of prosperity, define proportional tax, give an example, define the law diminishing marginal utility, define wealth, describe the concept of zakat, describe the type of market regarding time element, differentiate between inflation and deflation, differentiate between utility and usefulness, differentiate of firm and industry, state conditions of equilibrium of a firm under perfect competition in the long run, state the meaning of equilibrium price, state the relationship between total utility and marginal utility, what are indirect taxes, what are transfer payments, what is difference between supply and stock, what is meant by average fixed cost, what is meant by average total cost, what is meant by boom phase, what is meant by capital goods, what is meant by consumer equilibrium, what is meant by consumption of wealth, what is meant by depreciation expenditure, what is meant by depression, what is meant by derived demand, what is meant by economic laws, what is meant by entrepreneur, what is meant by equilibrium of demand and supply, what is meant by extension and contraction of demand। और 48 क्वेश्चन है what is meant by firm, what is meant by income tax, what is meant by international trade, what is meant by labor, what is meant by land, what is meant by law of decreasing return, what is meant by long period या long run, what is meant by medium of exchange, what is meant by money, what is meant by monopoly, what is meant by net national product, what is meant by perfect competition, what is meant by positive utility, what is meant by public finance, what is meant by recession, what is meant by reserve price, what is meant by subsidies, what is meant by supply, what is meant by total cost, what is meant by total product, what is meant by total revenue, what is meant by trade cycle, what is meant by usher, what is meant by util, what is meant by variable factors of production, what is opportunity cost, what is the shutdown point of the firm, what is value of money, why do economic laws not prove true like physical or scientific laws, why the slope of demand curve is negative under monopoly, write conditions of firm's equilibrium, write 4 assumptions of law of demand, write 4 causes of shift in demand curve, write 4 causes of shift in supply, write 4 determinants of elasticity of demand, Write 4 differences between zakat and tax. Question number 84 है write 4 important aspects of Adam Smith's definition of economics. Write 4 merits of Marshall's definition of economics. Write the formula of point elasticity of demand. Write the name of 4 factors of production. Write the name of 2 kinds of cost of production. Write 2 assumptions of law of supply. Write 2 factors of utility. Write 2 principles of circular flow of national income. तो स्टूडेंट्स ये 91 मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस थे. अगर आपको इनकी कंप्लीट पीडीएफ लिस्ट चाहिए तो आप ऊपर दिए गए व्हाट्सएप नंबर पे रब्ता करें. इंशाल्लाह आपको ये लिस्ट मिल जाएगी. इन क्वेश्चंस को आप अच्छे तरीके से तैयार कीजिए. उम्मीद है कि आपका पेपर अच्छा हो जाएगा.